Hello and welcome back, and it's October, which means it's Monster Month. So all my videos this month will celebrate everything monstrous and spooky. And we're kicking it off with today's toy box video. What toy will come out of the box and what monstrous story will it tell? Let's find out. Looks like this lovely lady wants to come out and play. Better protect your necks. By 1969, Warren Publishing had well established itself as a leader in horror magazines and comics. Among their output was Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, edited by the legendary Forrest J. Ackerman, as well as the black and white horror comic magazines Creepy and Eerie. Warren publisher James Warren was inspired by the film Vampirella, an adaptation of a French comic book featuring a sexy space heroine that was played by Jane Fonda. Warren envisioned a sexy horror heroine in the same vein, pardon the pun, as Vampirella, and came up with the concept of Vampirella. Warren described how he wanted the character to look to writer, artist, and feminist icon Trina Robbins, who first brought Vampirella to life. The first issue of the black and white horror comic anthology Vampirella was published in September 1969. The famous cover to that issue was painted by the legendary Frank Frazetta, and Vampirella's comic debut was written by Forrest J. Ackerman and drawn by Tom Sutton. In that first issue, we learn the origin of Vampirella. She hails from an alien world called Draculon. Through a quirk of science and evolution, what constitutes water on the planet Draculon has the same chemical makeup as human blood. Therefore, the inhabitants of planet Draculon sustain themselves on what we would consider blood. However, an ongoing drought on the planet Draculon has all but dried up their blood supply, and the inhabitants are slowly dying. One day, a spaceship from Earth crash lands on Draculon. Vampirella goes to investigate and discovers that the blood that she needs to survive exists within the astronauts. With this discovery, Vampirella heads to the planet Earth. While on Earth, Vampirella encounters a member of her race that came to our planet centuries ago and was corrupted by evil, a being named Dracula. Warren published Vampirella magazine until 1983, when the publisher ceased operation. Harris Publishing acquired the rights to Vampirella and created various series featuring the character from 1991 up until 2007. In March of 2010, Dynamite Entertainment acquired the rights to Vampirella from Harris Comics. Through many decades and 3 different publishers, Vampirella's story has been rebooted over a half dozen times. Vampirella's supporting cast includes former sorcerer and sideshow magician Pendragon, father and son vampire hunters Conrad and Adam Van Helsing, Vampirella's blonde twin sister Draculina, and the shape-shifting Panther, who can transform into a black cat. Vampirella has crossed over with a number of other popular characters and properties, including Aliens, Catwoman, Kiss, Red Sonja, Tomb Raider, and the Archie Comics characters Betty and Veronica. In 2000, More Action Collectibles released a series of Vampirella action figures. Founded by sculptor Claiborne Moore, More Action Collectibles was known for its line of figures based on the television series Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as well as figures of different comic book characters, especially the so-called bad girl characters of that era, like Lady Death, Kabuki, Witchblade, and Fathom. The Vampirella action figure was released with several accessories, like a diorama base and a crossbow, and there were several different variations, including a black costume variant, a version with an alternate head sculpt based on model actress Julie Strain, and there was a reverse packaging variant where the figure was packed in backwards to show off Claiborne Moore's sculpting prowess. Let's take a closer look at the Vampirella action figure by More Action Collectibles. And calling this an action figure is a bit generous. She really only has 5 POA, and that's not even the legs. There is no articulation at all in her legs. They are sculpted in the posed position like that. She can move both of her shoulders, her wrists can rotate, and there is movement in her head, but you really can't move it all that much because of her hair sculpt. So the attraction for this figure is obviously the sculpting. Claiborne Moore has a talent for sculpting very sexy female figures. And there's the reason they had the backwards packaging variant. The paint applications on the figure are really nicely done. There aren't that many of them, of course, just her face, the ornaments on her arms, and of course the quote-unquote costume. Vampirella has strangely never been adapted to animation, which is too bad, as she'd be perfect for an animated project aimed at adults. There was an attempt to make a Vampirella film by the classic British studio Hammer back in the 1970s that would have starred Carolyn Munro in the title role. And the proposed film would have had a cast that included Peter Cushing, Orson Welles, and Donald Pleasance. But unfortunately, Hammer couldn't get the rights from Warren. Oh, what could have been. But a Vampirella feature film did get created in the 1990s. Released in September 1996 and directed by Jim Wynorski, a director known for B-movies and softcore exploitation films, Vampirella the movie stars Talisa Soto in the title role. You may remember her as playing Princess Katana in the original Mortal Kombat film. The villain of the movie, the evil Vlad, is played by the lead singer of The Who, Roger Daltrey.
In a galaxy far away,
always among us, there are wicked aberrations.
in a world of perfect harmony,
Not content with the plenty our civilization provides, you turn on your brother.
a cold-blooded killer will put an end to it all and shatter a young woman's life forever.
I know that you don't approve, but this journey is something that I have to do.
Now she's traveling across time to a new world and a murderer over 300,000 years old. Talisa Soto,
Truly are one of us.
Roger Daltrey,
Guess again.
Vampirella.
To say this film is bad would be an understatement. The film is best remembered for its cheesy acting, cheap-looking effects, and Daltrey's scenery-chewing performance as the murderous Vlad, a vampire from outer space posing as a singer in Las Vegas. And this is probably a good time to talk about Vampirella's costume, such as it is. In some publicity shots for the Vampirella film, Talisa Soto is seen wearing a more traditional version of the comic book Vampirella costume. But within the film itself, it is very different, and I don't think it translated very well. Obviously, Vampirella's got one of the most impractical costumes to translate from comic book into live action. It was obviously created to be very sexy, and it certainly does accomplish that task. And over the years, the costume has been criticized as being exploitative and leaning into the male gaze. While there have been attempts over the years to put Vampirella into different outfits and to update the costume for more modern times, inevitably her classic costume makes a comeback, and it is considered iconic. And despite not being at all practical, that has not stopped many different cosplayers from translating the costume into real life. And many of these cosplayers have graced the covers of official Vampirella comic books. Getting back to the film, it was released direct to DVD as part of a film series called Roger Corman Presents. Roger Corman, of course, being the legendary low-budget sci-fi and horror film producer. Many of you have probably never heard of the film. It did not do well. It was critically panned. And it has also been heavily criticized by the director Jim Wynorski himself, calling the film, quote, a mess, a film I cannot watch, everything went wrong, everything. And that's coming from the director. Over the years, there have been numerous statues released of Vampirella, and recently there have been 2 new 1/12 scale action figures from both executive replicas and icon collectibles. Since 1969, Vampirella has had an unusual journey, and I consider her a true cult classic. Despite existing for over 50 years, she's never found real mainstream success. Casual fans probably know the name, they certainly know the costume, but she still sits on the outskirts of comic book fame. As I said earlier, this character would be perfect for animation, and realistically, that's probably the only way that you can faithfully bring this comic book character to life. I hope you enjoyed that little history of Vampirella. As always, thanks for watching. Thank you for your time and attention. Stay tuned for more monstrous videos all throughout October, and I'll see you in the next one.